Welcome back, friends. You are listening to the Juicebox Podcast.
My name is Andrea, and I am one of 3 type 1s in my family.
Nothing you hear on the Juicebox Podcast should be considered advice, medical or otherwise. Always consult a physician before making any changes to your healthcare plan. Don't forget to save 40% off of your entire order at CozyEarth.com. All you have to do is use the offer code JUICEBOX at checkout. That's JUICEBOX at checkout to save 40% at CozyEarth.com. AG1 is offering my listeners a free $76 gift when you sign up. You'll get a welcome kit, a bottle of D3K2, and 5 free travel packs in your first box. So make sure you check out drinkag1.com/juicebox to get this offer. I created the Diabetes Variables series because I know that in type 1 diabetes management, the little things aren't that little, and they really add up. In this series, we'll break down everyday factors like stress, sleep, exercise, and those other variables that impact your day more than you might think. Jenny Smith and I are going to get straight to the point with practical advice that you can trust. So check out the Diabetes Variables series in your podcast player or at juiceboxpodcast.com. Today's podcast is sponsored by US Med. usmed.com/juicebox. You can get your diabetes supplies from the same place that we do. And I'm talking about Dexcom, Libre, Omnipod, Tandem, and so much more. usmed.com/juicebox or call 888-721-1514. Today's podcast is sponsored by the insulin pump that my daughter has been wearing since she was 4 years old, Omnipod. Omnipod.com/juicebox. You too can have the same insulin pump that my daughter has been wearing every day for 16 years.
My name is Andrea, and I am one of 3 type 1s in my family.
How old were you when you were diagnosed?
With type 1 officially, I was 14, but I was diagnosed as type 2 when I was around 11, 12-ish.
Who else in your family has diabetes?
My older brother was diagnosed when he was 4 in 2000, and then my little sister in 2005.
Both with type 1?
Yeah, type 1. I think 2007. I apologize.
Oh, okay. But you were first.
I was actually the very last one in 2013.
Oh, my God. Wait, so, Andrea, are you telling me that both of your siblings have type 1 diabetes, and yet they thought you had type 2 diabetes for 3 years?
Yeah. And it was crazy because I lost so much weight, and they're like, nope, you're chubby. Here's some metformin.
Did you go to a doctor's office at the back of a 7-Eleven? Like, what were you, who messed this up for you?
Well, I am from Florida, so it's totally possible that it might have been.
The endo will be back. He's out herping right now, but as soon as he collects 11 boas.
And 2 alligators. And 2 alligators.
He'll be back. Oh, gosh. So, wow. So you lived for 3 years as a type 2?
Yeah, and they put me on metformin, but, it makes you go to the bathroom pretty often, not to be TMI. So I refused to take it. Then finally they did like the GAD test, serum test. My GAD was pretty high. I think it was 30. And then they finally put me on insulin. So that was a huge relief.
The GAD antibody finally pushed them over the edge.
Yeah, but I still can't believe they didn't do it prior, since my other 2 siblings had it.
Oh my God, Andrea, I can't believe they didn't go, oh, we've been waiting for this. Her other 2 siblings have type 1. Like, did your parents push back?
Honestly, my mom is also kind of like anxious and shy, like me, but a little bit less. So she kind of agreed that it was just type 2.
Okay.
I was always like 10, 15 pounds overweight my whole life. So everyone's like, oh no, it's type 2, like your dad.
And your father has type 2.
Yeah, he has type 2. I don't know what he takes. I think he's taking metformin. But yeah, he's had type 2 and prediabetes ever since I could remember.
Okay.
So I think they just thought I also had it too.
Interesting. Well, what was that time like? I mean, you must have had a slow onset or you would have gone into DKA and died. Like, so, because you weren't using insulin, you weren't even using the metformin.
Yeah, and I actually just went to the My Chart this morning, and I was looking at some labs that they did like 2 months before, and they did like a urinalysis.
Yeah.
And I only had 2+ ketones. So I wonder if that kind of made them think, she kind of has ketones, but not really.
I wonder if you had like a lot of presentation. I mean, it has to
Honestly,
be, right?
I think so.
Yeah. Just such a slow onset that it didn't hurt you too badly. And they weren't able to make that type 1 diagnosis. But you think the GAD65 antibodies what pushed them over?
Oh, yeah, I definitely think so. Because I looked on the notes and it said, yep, she is type 1 like her other 2 siblings.
Just like that.
Bring her in, we'll start insulin.
Did you start with a pump or injections? How did it go?
Injections. You know, even though it was mid 2010s, like early 2010s, they put me on NPH, Humalog, and Lantus. So it was 3 different types.
Why MPH?
I think it's because of the school. Like, we never took insulin in school. So we would take, like, for example, I would take 15 units of Humalog every morning, 15 of MPH, and then the NPH would cover, like, my lunch.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if it was to save a shot at school, but
yeah,
I never knew anything different. I thought it was normal. I was kind of shocked when I went to like my first like adult endo, and he's like, no one uses MPH anymore.
What, are you from Manitoba? What about your siblings? Were they doing that as well?
Yeah, they were all doing that. We were all like taking it at the same time, like at 6:30 in the morning. My mom's like, okay, come on, everybody. And, you know, my brother, my sister, and then me.
Just like a conga line of injections.
Yeah, it's like, come on, everybody, daily meds.
But yeah, right. You're just in a line in your underwear, like waiting. Like,
yeah, we're all like halfway asleep. You know, we have another younger brother who does not have type 1. He would always be like, oh my. He's like, do I have to do this eventually? We're like, we hope not.
What's his name? Lucky?
Honestly, that's what we should call him.
No kidding.
His name's Joel, but honestly, he's the lucky one.
Oh, listen, I'm from Philly. I don't want to hear about anybody named Joel.
Oh,
yeah, just this thing.
Actually, that's not his name then.
Oh, okay. I don't like what the Sixers have done. So when you switch over to a faster acting insulin, it's because you're older, like an adult endocrinologist. But like, were your siblings going to like the same doctor as you, or did your mom like look up and go, hey, maybe we should be doing this for everybody?
I think it was because that's what my big brother's like very first endo was doing. This is also like 2001, 2002. And then we switched to another doctor. And he just kind of like stayed following the regimen. But then when I went to go see an adult endo, he took me off of the MPH. He doubled my Lantus. But my older brother stayed doing that until recently.
Okay.
And then my sister was actually on a T-Slim at that time. So she was only Novolog. So we're all kind of like managing it differently. But now 2 of us are on a pump and then 1 is still on MDI.
Okay. Does everybody have a CGM?
Yes.
Okay. How long ago was this now? How old are you?
I am 26.
26. Oh, so this is over a decade ago.
Yeah. I just got my pump. My very first pump that I got was a Dash, which was like in 2022. So I'm still kind of new to the pumping. I still feel like an infant, like in the pump stage.
Are you still with Dash?
No, I actually switched to Medtronic almost a year ago. I'm pretty happy with it.
Yeah, 670G?
780G.
780.
Yeah.
Oh, why am I still stuck in 670? 780G.
They're all the same numbers. It's like the same number, different pattern.
Listen, I've said this before, and Medtronic's a sponsor, but you got to name these things better.
Yeah, something cooler. The alligator, Medtronic alligator for the Floridians.
For Floridians. What a long title. It wouldn't fit on the box. But the 780G, that's a complete system, right? So you're wearing that with their sensor?
Yep. So I use their Guardian 4 sensor, which when it works, it really works. But when it doesn't work, it's kind of annoying. Like, you know, you have to like, you know, replace the sensor. But I like it so far. Yeah. It's been pretty good to me.
And then after the Guardian 4, there's another sensor coming from them, though, that's more like Dexcom-like in its build.
Yeah, the Simplera, which I'm super excited for, but they're not in the US yet. So just waiting. Just waiting.
Yeah, but you're happy with it for now.
Yeah, I think I'll stay with the Medtronic for now.
Yeah, no, that's great. I love when people find what they love. You know what I mean? Things that work for them, I think, are important.
Yeah. So the way I got on the Medtronic was, I think it was like 2023 when everyone was freaking out that the Dexcom G6 were no longer going to be. They're still available, but they were like phasing them out.
Yeah.
And I told my sister, you know, I really want like a closed loop system. She's like, well, why don't you just get the Dexcom? And, my insurance didn't cover at the time. I was like, yeah, but I don't want to pay, the higher copay. And let me just go to Medtronic,
Yeah.
And then the G7 comes out. I'm like, oh, I could have just waited.
I could have waited. G7. But you're happy. And that's what's important,
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a process. The entire thing's a process. How long have you known about the podcast?
Honestly, my sister and I were joining Facebook groups, like anything that had to do with type 1. So I joined your group in 2023, a couple of months before I got the Medtronic. I was still in the Omnipod 5 at that time. I was like, I'm in the group, but I've never listened to the podcast. So let me listen to the Omnipod 5 pro tips. So that's how I got introduced to the podcast.
Nice.
I was in your group first, and then I went to the podcast.
Yeah. How valuable did you find the online portion of the community?
I feel like I could actually search things, and there were answers and opinions.
Yeah.
So I love the group.
Good. I'm glad. Let's break your time up into sections. Your first 3 years of not having any insulin. Do you have access to what your A1Cs were back then?
Oh, yes. I actually just looked them up this morning. They were around 13.7, and then one was 14.9. And then when I finally got diagnosed, it was 15.1.
I feel like someone should yell at the people who you were seeing for your medical care at that point. That's crazy. But okay, so you get on to MDI, right? And you get some insulin. What happens then? Because you're about 14 at that point. Today's episode of the Juicebox Podcast is sponsored by Omnipod. And before I tell you about Omnipod, the device, I'd like to tell you about Omnipod, the company. I approached Omnipod in 2015 and asked them to buy an ad on a podcast that I hadn't even begun to make yet. Because the podcast didn't have any listeners, all I could promise them was that I was going to try to help people living with type 1 diabetes. And that was enough for Omnipod. They bought their first ad, and I used that money to support myself while I was growing the Juicebox Podcast. You might even say that Omnipod is the firm foundation of the Juicebox Podcast. And it's actually the firm foundation of how my daughter manages her type 1 diabetes every day. Omnipod.com/juicebox. Whether you want the Omnipod 5 or the Omnipod DASH, using my link lets Omnipod know what a good decision they made in 2015 and continue to make to this day. Omnipod is easy to use, easy to fill, easy to wear. And I know that because my daughter has been wearing one every day since she was 4 years old, and she will be 20 this year. There is not enough time in an ad for me to tell you everything that I know about Omnipod, but please take a look. Omnipod.com/juicebox. I think Omnipod could be a good friend to you, just like it has been to my daughter and my family. I used to hate ordering my daughter's diabetes supplies. I never had a good experience, and it was frustrating. But it hasn't been that way for a while, actually for about 3 years now, because that's how long we've been using US Med. usmed.com/juicebox or call 888-721-1514. US Med is the #1 distributor for Freestyle Libre systems nationwide. They are the #1 specialty distributor for Omnipod DASH, the #1 fastest growing Tandem distributor nationwide, the #1 rated distributor in Dexcom customer satisfaction surveys. They have served over 1 million people with diabetes since 1996, and they always provide 90 days worth of supplies and fast and free shipping. US Med carries everything from insulin pumps and diabetes testing supplies to the latest CGMs like the Libre 3 and Dexcom G7. They accept Medicare nationwide and over 800 private insurers. Find out why US Med has an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau at usmed.com/juicebox, or just call them at 888-721-1514. Get started right now, and you'll be getting your supplies the same way we do.
Yeah, I'm about 14, starting high school. I gained 15 pounds over the summer, which I was not happy for freshman year. We did MDI, and it was, take, 10 units for lunch, take this for snacks, take 10 units for dinner. And I just kept on following it. I never carb counted. If I was eating a banana, maybe 5 units which was way too much. Like, I didn't really know that the amount of insulin correlated to carbs.
Really?
Like, in how much food that you were eating.
Yeah.
So I was going low a lot. And then, like, the crazy highs.
Mm-hmm.
It was just not the best time.
Do you think you were gaining weight at that point from the eating to cover the low blood sugars?
Oh, yeah. I was eating a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think I was started on like a very high dose of insulin. I was going low a lot. And I just remember I was eating everything and anything my mom was cooking, like everything.
The time.
There was no food in the house, thanks to me.
Well, that's just crazy. I mean, so now you've got bad advice for the first 3 years. Then somebody figures out you have type 1, but then they don't give you good advice there either. So
yeah,
how long does that go on for?
Oh my, I would say up until like 3 years ago, I was doing this. I didn't like know what to look for. And part of that is on me, like the not being as educated. But I really didn't start to like look into it until I started listening to the podcast.
Really?
And, my sister was telling me about it. And that's when I was like, oh my, what have I been doing for the last decade?
So for a decade, you're just shooting randomly insulin here and there.
Yeah.
Getting low, eating, but you're going to an endocrinologist. What are your A1Cs like? Why aren't they saying something to you?
Honestly, I think it was because it was always three of us in the room. Like, it was my brother, my sister, and me. Really, I feel like it was, like the don't die advice. Like, okay, just, maybe don't take as much here and there. My A1Cs were always in like the 8 to 9s.
And no one ever said to you, do you remember saying to them, hey, listen, I get low a lot?
Honestly, I don't think I said anything.
Andrea, why do you think?
Honestly, I think it was just because my mom always spoke to the doctor, and my siblings and I were just kind of like just sitting in the chairs, just, letting her do all the talking. And, I would tell my mom, like, I'm getting low. And she's like, well, here's some juice. But I didn't know at the time that it was because I'm taking too much insulin. I was kind of just following like the paper, like, hey, like take,
Right.
5 units for this. And I'm like, okay, just blindly following it.
Oh my gosh. You told me that your boss is going to listen to this, so you're not going to curse, but I almost cursed just now, just so you know.
It's okay. If you do it, it's okay. But if it's me, I have to watch it.
I'm angry for you, and you're so sweet. Like, you're just like, it's okay. I didn't know.
Yeah. And, listening more to the podcast and, I switched to like another adult endo. That's when I was like, oh, like fats and, protein can affect it too. I learned so much more in like honestly, like the first 3 months of listening than I have from any handout, any like appointment that I've ever had with the endo. And, it's, thanks to you and your guests that, this information is a lot easier to access because I didn't even know about this. I didn't even know what to look for.
I'm so happy that you figured it out. And if the podcast helped you, that's a lovely bonus for me. But I'm just happy you're better because you're on a bad path. Like, what's your A1C now?
Ooh, it is a 6.2.
Oh my gosh. And how often do you find yourself so low you have to eat everything in the kitchen?
Rarely. The only time I really go low now is if I bolus too early for my meals, but that rarely really happens now. But I am super happy now with my better A1C.
Yeah, well, it made me so happy. I feel genuinely pleased for you. That's awesome. That's great. Okay, so tell people what you learned. Like you said, you learned about like fat and protein and bolusing for that. But I mean, you had to start at the beginning, didn't you? Like, were your settings right? How did you learn to count carbs finally? Like all that.
The one episode that I really think about a lot, and I hope I get his name right. I believe it was Terry Lives on a Boat.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I was leaving work and I was like, oh, I really want Wendy's. And you guys were talking about, protein and stuff. I was like, I'm like, let me try this, which of course is not medical advice, but I was like, let me try this real quick. The formula he was using. Yeah. And it worked. I got like a giant chicken salad and I was straight line 108 at the end of it. I was like, oh my God.
What did that feel like?
I felt like I'm not a parent, but I could imagine this is like when a parent listens to a kid say their first word.
Yeah, it's like a ton of pride.
Yeah, I was like, oh my gosh. I'm like, I could have been doing this and I didn't know.
Yeah, Terry Lives on a Boat's a great episode.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, that's so crazy. It really is genuinely, I don't know, like I'm struck by the fact that you're just going along with these crazy A1Cs that nobody's doing anything about it. You don't know to ask about it. And then you think your sister, do you remember what happened to her that she thought, oh, we should learn more about this?
So she is the first one that went on a pump and also a CGM. And, I'm very, I don't want to say old school, but I'm very like, I'm scared, to have something on me.
Yeah.
But she was like, no, like, she's like, if you have a CGM, she's like, you don't have to blindly bolus, which is what I was doing. If I'm like, I think I'm like 250, let me just bolus real quick.
You weren't testing to see?
No.
Yeah.
But I was just like, random. I'm like, oh, I feel like I need, 5 units. Oh, no, maybe I need 10. Like, I was just random. It was kind of like a playing darts. It's like, let's see which one I land on.
How much of this do you think just goes to your personality? Like your mom was taking care of it. The doctors are telling me you say you're like a little, maybe like reserved, right? So I'm just trying to get through the idea of like, those A1Cs are not good, right? When you're getting them.
Honestly, I'm so embarrassed to say, but I remember when I had like an 8.0 and I was so happy. I was like so proud of it because I thought it was good. I thought like below 9 was like, oh my gosh, yay.
Is that because at points you had 13s and you're like, oh my gosh, I've knocked it down 5 points?
Yeah, I really was. I was like, oh, I'm on top of the world. I have an A1C. You can't touch me. Like I was so up,
Wow. So you just thought 9's awesome because, it's better than 10. 8's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's way better than 12, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And I really did think, and that was like all of us, like all my siblings, we were all in like the 9s, the 8s, because we were only taking insulin 3 times a day,
Yeah.
In the morning, Humalog and NPH. And then at nighttime, our Lantus, and then our lunchtime Novolog.
Are all 3 of you doing something differently now? Like obviously your sister is. It sounds like she figured it out maybe before you did. What about the third sibling?
Yeah, so my older brother, he's still doing MDI, and he has a Dexcom G7.
Okay.
So he's doing that. My sister has the Dexcom G7 and the T-Slim, and then I have my good old Medtronic.
Do you guys talk about diabetes between the 3 of you?
Honestly, not really. Maybe with my sister, like sometimes we'll talk. If we're going out to like lunch together, I'll be like, how much did you take? She's like, oh, I took 10 units. And I'm like, oh, I'm taking 15. And, of course we have different like sensitivity stuff.
Sure.
That's really the most that we talk about. Or like if I'm really annoyed with like my CGM, I'm like, can I borrow Dexcom? Like, I don't want to use my CGM. And she's like, yeah, here.
And you guys do that.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm not here to like say something bad about your healthcare or your mom or anything like that. Okay. But like with some distance, you see that you got pretty rough treatment medically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now looking back, I really do think it could have been better. And, I gave my mom a lot of, I don't know what word, leniency. I don't know. I feel like that's kind of a harsh word. But, she didn't really speak English. So she was just trying to navigate it all, with assistance from like translators or interpreters, as I should say.
Yeah.
So I kind of don't hold like a grudge against her because I think she was trying her best.
She was at a pretty significant disadvantage as well, you think?
Yeah, like looking back, because we did have like Medicaid sometimes, and my sister's like, we could have had, CGMs and pumps at that time.
Right.
And I was like, oh, I'm like, I did not know. We always had just, our regular like ultra touch meters.
Yeah. You weren't getting good direction and there were language barriers and you got, like you said, you were a little quiet. On top of that, your mom's quiet. And yeah. And so just all of that kind of stacks up. And then your sister gets a pump and that's what kind of moves everything in the right direction.
Oh, yeah. She's very strong. Like she's like I don't know if like the tough sibling, but she really is a lot vocal, like advocating for herself. So when she got her pump, she was like really telling me like, hey, the pump is, it changes everything. You don't have to be taking shots all the time, which is also part of why my A1Cs were so bad. Like if I didn't feel like taking a bolus, I'm not going to do it.
Really? You weren't always bolusing?
For meals, but like if I felt like I feel kind of like my blood sugar is high, I would just ignore it and hope it goes away. Kind of like, take a bolus of hope and make it go away.
Bolus of hope. Okay. Well, I mean, that all makes sense to me. It really does. you can look at it from like a long distance and say, I can't believe nobody told them. I can't believe they didn't wonder. But at the same time, like I can see how all these things stack up and lead you to this place.
Yeah. And I'm very lucky now that, we have access to, the group, the podcast, all this information. I really do feel like it's helped me tremendously. I went from a 7.7 to a 6.2 in the span of year and like 2 months.
Wow.
All this information, I feel like really motivated me to do those changes.
It's having good tools and understanding what you're talking about.
Yes.
Really is.
Because before I'm like bolus. I'm like, what is that? I never heard of that word until the podcast.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I never heard that word. Like I would just say taking a correction. I didn't know it was like bolus.
Right.
I was like, bolus. I'm like, sounds like a puppy name, but okay.
So there's context for having just definitions of words that are being used.
Yeah, it took me a while to get used to it. Like, like basal, bolus, sensitivity factor. At first, I was like very intimidated. And that's why I kind of like backed off for like a couple of days. I was like, oh, this is kind of scary for me,
Yeah.
Let me, back off. But then I was like, I'm going to go blind in 40 years if I continue this path of, 10 A1Cs.
Why did you know that?
Oh, because honestly, when I was first diagnosed as type 2, so this was like probably 2011-ish, I had a really bad fall at the school, like the middle school. And I got like these really bad, like, I don't want to say burns, but I fell on the concrete pavement and it really scratched my legs like really bad. And, at that time, my A1Cs were like, 12, 13. And I just remember they were just like, I don't know if this is TMI, but it was like oozing pus and it was just disgusting.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't want that to happen anywhere else, and that's all due to my bad, I hate to say bad, but to my high numbers.
But do you think like even that much understanding about what complications might look like, is that from your father having type 2 maybe?
My dad didn't really have like, I don't know if he ever had like complications due to it.
Was it spoken about, I mean?
Oh, no, not really.
Really?
His mom had type 2 in her last years of life, and she was blind. So that's kind of why I always had that fear, like
diabetes equals blindness.
Yeah. I was like, I got to take care of myself or else, I don't want to be blind at the age of 70.
I see. So there's enough like loose knowledge of things that may or may not happen to just get lodged in your head and push you in a direction.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. But that doctors didn't help you understand that. Your mom was limited.
Yeah.
Can I ask you, if I took the Bold Beginning series and AI translated it into Spanish, do you think that it would make its way around the internet?
I think so, especially with like the younger generations and, phones being more accessible.
Yeah.
We're from a ranch in Mexico and everybody has a phone. Everyone's, on the music apps. I think that it would be more helpful.
Okay.
I think they would have more access to it. I wish my mom had something like that.
Yeah.
Because, at that time, it was kind of like old school type 1 info that wasn't really updated.
Is there enough community connection that you think people would pass it around?
I'm not really sure because I haven't been out there in a while. But I know there are some Spanish-speaking type 1 groups.
Okay.
I'm actually in like 2 of them. So I think if it got shared there, maybe it would get some rounds.
Okay. It's a significant expense, and that's why I'm trying to figure out to do it or not, because it's going to come completely out of my pocket. No one's going to buy an ad on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, or anything like that.
It is pretty costly.
But I just feel like it would be really valuable.
Yeah, and it's great information. Honestly, info that you really can't get anywhere like at the doctor's office. I'm not saying that they're not, educated, but a staff member wouldn't tell me the info that, I got from the podcast.
Yeah, it's crazy. I don't know how to say this exactly, but like, do you think culturally, like having diabetes is just a thing that people accept and don't do a lot to try to change?
Yeah, I honestly, I definitely do think so. Because like in my family, my mom's always cooking like high carb, it was always like, rice was like half your plate with a tortilla and, maybe a protein like chicken or steak or something. My father just kept on eating the same before he was diagnosed with type 2. I definitely think it's accepted and not really I don't know what word I'm looking for, like done something about.
Right. Yeah. Almost like, oh, the BD's got me. Nothing I can do about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. I got caught by diabetes.
Yeah. It finally got to me. We were expecting him at 7, but he came at 9.
Yeah. No. Right. Yeah. See, that's what I think. And then if you have the expectation that like, this is just what it is. So then when you have those problems, you don't think I could change this. You think this is what's supposed to happen.
Yeah, I definitely think that is very much how I saw it in my family.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate to put like my dad on the spot because,
No, how would he know,
Yeah, like I always remember like even though he had it and, we had, type 1, we were still eating very much high carb meals, not doing any exercise, just kind of like, we have it. Oh, well, it's just, we just put it in the closet real quick. Let's continue with our life.
Well, I'll ignore this and have a plate full of beans and rice. And yeah, right. And just like drive our blood sugar up for a day and a half.
Oh my, I honestly, looking back, I can't believe that, we all managed to make it to our 20s.
Oh, I'm going to say, yeah, like, right. You must be like, now that you have like real perspective on what the impact of that food is.
Oh yeah. Now I like, whenever like she makes like rice, I'm just, like, I love you, Mom, but I'm going to pass for right now just because I don't feel like, battling for the next 2 hours.
Does she know now? Does she understand how impactful that food is?
I think she does.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't really talk to her much about it, but I think she does know now. Like, we do try to make different things that aren't so carb heavy, but I can still see it when she makes it. Like, I can still see, my other siblings and I, like, we kind of avoid it.
What stops you guys from talking about it? Like, I'm wondering, like, at some point, have you not thought, hey, Mom, like, why don't we ease up on Dad here a little bit? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And he also, like, I don't know if he's on any other medications, but he has been, like, losing a lot more weight. Awesome. I can see he's trying to work on it. But, yeah it's like, it's kind of like, I don't want to say you can't teach a dog new tricks, but, it's like, we eat this type of food. I'm going to, make this food, if you guys want less, that's fine. But, these are like staples in our household.
Has to be like this. Would your dad do a GLP medication, do you think?
I think so. Yeah. I think it would be helpful. He's always been, a bigger guy. He would be working outside, like doing like hard manual labor. Mm-hmm. So
that must be difficult with high blood sugars too.
Oh, yeah. And then we're in Florida by the Everglades. It is.
Oh, really? Oh, geez.
The swamp out here. It's hot. I don't know how he does it.
No kidding. Yeah. I mean, if he's got reasonable insurance, he ought to talk to somebody about that and just see if maybe
beneficial. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it could definitely, you could knock some weight off of him if he has it to lose. It might help with his blood sugars, his insulin resistance, a lot of different things.
Yeah. And honestly, I was actually thinking about asking my doctor, but I don't know. I'm trying to do it like with my diet and going on walks right now because my sensitivity is not the best, but I do see it's getting better. Like
as you lose weight?
Yeah. Like I lost like, I want to say like 3 in the last month. I've been like cutting out like everything like sodas.
Awesome.
Tortillas, no more rice, which I miss very dearly.
Well, yeah, man, those are some easy cuts, really. Like when you say soda, are you saying diet soda or regular soda?
More like juices. Like, so I'm like kind of scared of carbonation, like carbonated drinks now because.
Wait, why are you scared of carbonation?
So I actually went into DKA in 2019. And at that time, I was obsessed with Dr. Pepper. And so I was like, oh my gosh. I'm like, I drank so much Dr. Pepper and I wasn't bolusing for it. I'm in DKA.
Wait, so now the bubbles, you have bubble fear?
No, I have a bubble fear. I refuse to drink sodas. Like ever since 2019, I refuse to drink sodas.
I don't think you should drink soda, so I'm okay with that. But you were drinking regular Dr. Pepper and not bolusing for it?
Yeah, like I would like, if I would be driving, let's take a Dr. Pepper. It has to be the cherry one though. And I just wouldn't bolus for it. I'm driving. I would not bolus.
Because why? Tell me why.
Honestly, I didn't really think it would affect me because at that time I wasn't checking and I was just, doing the random boluses here and there. I was like, I'll just, bolus for this soda later.
Andrea, you're being so honest and I really appreciate this. But if you were diagnosed at 11 and you were driving and drinking a Dr. Pepper and thinking it wasn't going to affect you, how many years with diabetes was it when you were cracking that Dr. Pepper?
Oh my, I want to say, okay, so I was 21 It was
a decade with type 1 diabetes. And you were like, this Dr. Pepper is not a problem for me.
Yeah, it doesn't count, you know?
And when you look back now, being honest.
Were
you lying to yourself or did you really not know?
I honestly think it was like denial and lack of education.
Okay.
Like, I feel like I was, like denying it. Like, it's not food.
Okay. So if I would have pinned you down back then and said, listen, you got to be honest. You know, this is making your blood sugar go up. You would have said, yes, I know.
I'm like, I know, but not really because it's a liquid.
Because it's a liquid. Doesn't count. It's Tuesday after 3.
Yeah, I'm like, no, I don't even know what you're talking about.
My gosh. Now you wouldn't do that now. Is that correct?
Oh no. Like, so sometimes like we go out to like eat and stuff and I love unsweet teas. Mm-hmm. Like if I put like 1 sugar packet, I'm putting that in my pump. I'm putting like 2 carbs in.
Yeah.
Like I am very picky now. Like I really want to get everything in the pump.
That's awesome.
And I want everything bolused for everything.
How come you don't put a Splenda in that unsweet tea?
Oh, I don't like Splenda. I like Equal. And if they don't have Equals, then I'll put a
then
sugar.
You do sugar? That's fair enough. Is Equal the blue one?
Yeah, that's the blue one. Okay, we are an Equal family here. Okay, so, we love Equal here. Okay,
so generally speaking, you would use a sugar substitute, and if you didn't have it, then you'd go with sugar, but you would bolus for it. Yeah,
I like to do like 2 carbs per little packet.
Nice,
but that's really rare.
Can I take credit for that? For you being a person who's bolusing for your sugar packet?
Yes, because before I thought like only like carbs, like, and by carbs, it was like, rice, cakes, cereal. I'm like, only those things raise my blood sugar. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't even think that protein would raise you. So if I eat chicken, I'm like, this chicken, I'm doing it. I'm bolusing for the chicken, for the protein.
Awesome. Do you know where you got that idea from?
Honestly, from that episode about Terry lives on a boat.
No, but I mean, before that, where did you get the idea that like only carbs in certain forms had impact on your blood sugar?
Oh, because that's how we were doing it here. Like my mom, she had like a hard time understanding that, other things also impact. And I always remember this office visit. I was still not type 1, but I always remember this one day that we went in for my brother and my sister. And I just, tag along with them.
Yeah.
And, the lady's like, when you give your kids insulin, like, what are you giving them insulin for? She said, for the sugar. And she's like, okay, what do you mean by that? She's like, like snacks, bread. And then the lady was like, do you do it for other things like rice, the tortillas you guys have? My mom's like, no, that's not sugar. So in my head, I was like, oh, like I kind of like took my mom's idea and then I was kind of doing it until I was, told otherwise.
Yeah. And do you remember that conversation enough to know if the nurse was like, hey, well, you're wrong?
Honestly, I think they were being very soft. It definitely felt like a scolding, though. Mm-hmm. Just because, I'm like 11. I'm like, oh my God, they're yelling at my mom. Like, who are you? But now I kind of wish that it happened to me, honestly, because I feel like I would have definitely taken better care of it.
Yeah.
Sometimes, you just need I don't want to say a good scolding, but,
you need a podcast. That's all. You'll be fine.
Yeah. I'm like, let me put Scott on.
We'll talk about it and I'll feel better.
Yes. Yeah. Honestly, I was listening this morning. I believe you just put the episode of Polly and I was like, wow. She was also talking about how she was like misdiagnosed as well, or that they were having a hard time believing her. And I was like, oh my gosh, that
happened to me.
That happened to me too.
Can I tell you that I was contacted privately this morning by a relation? It's not, it doesn't matter how. And somebody's been diagnosed by being a EMT and checking their blood sugar during teaching other like trainees how to check blood sugars. And as crazy as that sounds, that's maybe the 4th time I've heard that story.
That is wild.
Yeah, of people just who are EMTs and like, no, they're on the rig and they're teaching new people and they're like, well, here's how you do it. And they test themselves and then go, hey, what the hell?
Like, this has to be wrong.
Yeah, right. I think I've quite literally interviewed 3 people who that's happened to. And now I know a 4th one.
Oh my gosh.
The stories are so universal, I think, a lot of times.
I think it's kind of like same story, different font. It's like, the same sentence, just Times New Roman, Gothic style.
Just a little different, but really the same. Yeah, enough for you to see the relevance to yourself in the conversation. What was that? Is that episode called Floppy Duck?
Yes, the Floppy Duck. I'm still have like halfway to go, but I was just listening to that part. I was like, oh my gosh, it's the same thing, different characters.
Yeah. Well, I know, like, it's funny. I used to make such a big deal of saying all the time, like, I know you want to feel special and I know your diabetes it's different than everybody else's, but it's not really.
Yeah.
It's a lot of similarities, at least enough similarities that we can all look at them together and say, hey, you know what? This person's not exactly like me, obviously, but enough of their story is my story that I can learn from it.
Yes. And I think that's the beauty of the podcast where, we all have a different entrance, but it's still like the same journey. Like you might go this route and I might go this one. And, you and Arden go this one, but like we're all trying to get to the same end goal of, trying to be as healthy and, happy as possible.
That's the whole thing, is understanding how to use insulin and folding that into your day-to-day life so that you have nice, healthy, happy outcomes. That's all.
Yes, that's the most important one, which is why I'm so happy that you exist, Scott, and that this podcast exists.
You're very nice. Can I ask you talk a little bit in your note about depression? Did you have trouble with that?
Oh, yeah. I think that was also part of why I was kind of like, I feel like my blood sugar is high. I'm just not going to do it. I'll do it later. It's kind of like, like just pushing it off. I was actually admitted to a psychiatric hospital for depression. I listened to the episode, I think it was like the prison episode about how, they treat the, I don't want to say inmates, maybe they're inmates, feels like they don't care. And honestly, I really related to that because that's how it kind of felt in there too.
How long were you there?
I was there for like 5 days. I had major depression and I really needed help. And, there was a lot going on at that time in my life.
Yeah.
And, things happen. And, I went there and I just felt so, I don't want to say helpless, but I felt so, I don't want to say naked, but I felt so helpless not being able to control my type 1. Even though I wasn't controlling it well, I did not like that somebody else
had control over it. Yeah. So how long ago was this? How old were you?
I was 22. So this was in 2020.
Okay. And so even though you weren't like on top of it, having it taken away from you was painful.
Oh yeah. It was like huge eye opener. It was like, I'm already not taking care of it well enough. These people are definitely not going to take care of it better, than me. And I'm already at the bottom floor.
Yeah. But does it feel like you've given control of like whether or not you breathe in or breathe out to somebody else?
I think so.
I've had people explain to me that idea of like, don't touch my pump, don't touch my insulin, like, because it is so intertwined with who you are as a person.
Yeah. Like I don't go anywhere without at least one vial of like my Novolog. Like it's me. It's like me in like mini form.
Yeah. You don't want anybody messing with that.
Yeah. And I just remember they would test your blood sugar and I don't want to discredit them because they did a lot of really good, things for my mental health. But I just remember I felt very restricted. And, I did not like that. They were not letting me bolus for my meals. They were only giving me, like, if my blood sugar was 200, only for the 200, go eat. And,
not for the food.
Not the best type of control.
What do you think your A1C was at that time in your life?
So it was the 8.0 because they made me do labs before I went. And that's when I was like so proud of the 8.0 A1C.
Yeah. And how do you feel now? Like these years removed, have you experienced any depression since then?
It comes and goes. I'm on a medication right now, which I think has really helped with my management. I definitely think it's an important role. It gives me like more motivation. And so I'm very happy with it. And my A1C is definitely a lot happier. My blood sugars are happier now. Like I'm more on top.
I'm trying to figure out if you just feel lighter in your mind when your A1Cs are lower.
Honestly, I think so. Because, it feels like a report card. Say you failed like 2 tests and then you finally got like a better grade and like you're just getting a better one and better one. And I hate to even say it like that because it's so damaging in some ways. But
it feels like you're building momentum though.
Yeah.
Okay. You have a lot going on.
Oh my, Scott. If you have 5 hours, I can tell you everything.
Well, pick something else you want to tell me.
Let me see. I think we went over almost everything. I can't really think of anything else. I'm not really sure, Scott.
Look at you. You are so delightful. Why are you so nice?
Honestly, I think it's the anxiety.
Wait a minute. So you have anxiety?
I think so.
Yeah.
I've always been a super shy kid, and I feel like that's also for my mom. Mm-hmm. And I've just always been super shy, and I'm a huge people pleaser. I don't know if that's obvious, but I'm a huge people pleaser and, anxiety and all that.
Are there things you're thinking that you don't say because you don't want to be too, aggressive?
Oh, yeah. Sometimes I do think things like for example, at the endo when they were telling us, why are you taking this? I'm like, I don't know. Why are you asking me this? Why did you take 50 units to say? I don't know.
How else does anxiety impact you?
Honestly, if I'm very nervous for something, my blood sugars will skyrocket,
sure.
Probably 60, 70 points. And I just leave it there. I won't bolus. This was before I had the pump, but I definitely feel like I had a lot of higher blood sugars all the time. At school, I was always very shy, the really shy kid in your class. That was me.
Okay.
If I had to even speak to the teacher, I'm shaking, almost crying.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I definitely feel like that probably impacted my management earlier. I was always high, the adrenaline. I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
But I definitely think it affects how I managed my type 1. And, my sister's a lot more laid back. She's super relaxed. She manages it super different. And, she doesn't really have anxiety. So that's how I kind of look at us. We're oh my gosh, we have the same thing, but it's not the same.
Yeah. Does it impact your personal relationships or your work or having gone to school? Is there any other places where you feel limited by it?
I think so. For school, right now I work at a doctor's office as the front desk. But, I went to a technical college to be a pharmacy tech. I was just dreading going there. I definitely did not want to stay there. Plus, I was only a temp hire, so it kind of worked out better that way. But personal relationship wise, I would say so sometimes. Sometimes I do not want to go out and hang out just because I don't have the energy for it.
Just being around people, does it kind of sap your energy?
Kind of. Well, it really depends. If it's people that I know, not really. But if it's hey, you're beating 20 people today, I'm oh, how do I get out of this one?
Do you think, Andrea, I know why I can't think of the word because this is the first episode I've recorded since I had my surgery and I'm still a little foggy.
Oh.
But my brain is trust me, if we would have done this 2 days ago, the podcast would have sounded like me going, but I'm just a little I'm a half step behind right now. What is it called when people, oh God, I can't think of the word. This is so ridiculous. Never mind.
I'm kind of thinking of the Thor, I don't know if it's Thor or the Infinity Rings. It's once I have enough people, I'm done.
Okay. So if you're around people and you don't know them, is it a lot of work?
For conversation, yeah. Because it's I don't know what to talk to you about. And I just get super...
And that makes you anxious?
Yeah, it makes me anxious. I don't know why, honestly. Because I'm never going to see these people again. So why do I get like this? And then, my face turns red, my blood sugar goes up, and it's just a mess.
Your face turns red, your blood sugar goes up.
I always call myself a tomato.
In your mind, you're this is ridiculous. I'm never going to meet these people again. It doesn't matter what they think of me.
And it's not even that I care, what they think. It's more I have to be here. It's kind of like an amusement park. Imagine you're the ride and you just want to I don't know where I'm going.
No, keep going. You're the ride and what?
And you just want people to be oh, hey, oh my gosh, I love this ride. I think it is the people pleaser in me. It's you want people to like you.
Has anyone ever called you introverted?
Oh, yes. My fiance all the time.
Okay. That's the word, by the way, that I couldn't find earlier, in case you're wondering.
Introverted.
Yeah. So he says you're very introverted.
Yes. And he is a complete opposite.
He's got kind of an outward personality.
Oh, yes.
So can you feel drained after these social interactions?
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes, like, I just want to go back home. I'm like, I can't. I have to leave.
Do you think of your life as limited because of that?
Kind of. Not really. Well, I want to say yes, because I do like to, go explore new things. But if there's a lot of people, it kind of drags out. Like, I have this kind of funny story. So my fiance and I went to one of his cousin's weddings in Pittsburgh, and I do not drink alcohol, and they had an open bar. I had like 4 screwdrivers, and I ripped my pod off because it was just, it was almost out. I was like, I'm done for the night. Let's go.
You got drunk and took off your Omnipod?
I took off my Omnipod. I'm like, let's go. I'm done.
You had enough vodka and orange juice that you were like, I don't have diabetes anymore.
Yep. I didn't even know who she is.
Oh my God. How long? Go ahead.
And then we went back to, the hotel, and I was like, I'm just going straight to sleep. Like, he's like, no. He's like, you put another Omnipod. I'm like, no, I don't. I go straight to sleep. I'm like, for me, 1 drink is like 10. I was out of it. Yeah. And so he put a new one on. I'm like, well, I'll never have another screwdriver in Pittsburgh again.
He slapped a pot on you while you were passed out?
Yeah. And I was like, oh my God. I'm like, how did this pod get on my leg? I was like, did you put this on? He was like, yeah.
Because you were going to wake up in DKA if you were lucky.
Yeah. And it was the first time he's ever done that. And, it just really made me think of how important it is to have like a supportive partner.
Yeah.
If you have type 1. And, I hope everyone, finds that, because it's really important, especially when, you have 4 screwdrivers, you rip off your Omnipod, and then you go straight to sleep.
All right. Do you ever suggest the podcast to other people?
Oh, yes. Like, so we rarely have type 1 patients in the doctor's office where I work, but I have recommended it probably twice now to the type 1s that do come in. And I recommend it because it gives so much good info.
Okay.
Definitely the pro tip series. I've been trying to get my sister to listen, but she never listens to like anything. I'm like, you have to listen to this. She's like, oh my gosh, you've already told me like 10 times. So I try, Scott. I'm trying to help.
No, I just wondered, like, when you tell her to try it, what do you think she'll get from it?
I definitely think the like avoiding going low, like in the bolusing for like proteins and like fats. I think that would be very beneficial, because we never learned that. And I've tried to bring it up to her, but it's kind of like, we don't really speak about type 1. Yeah. So we kind of like avoid the subject.
Sounds like in your family, you don't really talk about these kinds of things.
No, not really. Like, we'll probably talk about it like twice in a week. Like, hey, what's your blood sugar? Oh, your blood sugar is this. Mine's better. Huh?
It's kind of it. Just a little playfulness.
Yeah. Okay. Just, very sister-esque. Like, she's my little sister. We used to work together, and, there was a Subway across the street, and we would have like little battles. Like, whoever's blood sugar is higher has to go get the Subway across the street.
All right. Listen, Andrea, you were terrific. I really appreciate you doing this with me. If you'd hold on for a second,
thank you for having me.
Oh no, it's a real pleasure. I'd like to talk to you for just a half a second after I hit stop. So hold on, okay?
Yeah.
A huge thanks to Omnipod. Not just my longest sponsor, but my first one. Omnipod.com/juicebox. If you love the podcast and you love tubeless insulin pumps, this link is for you. Omnipod.com/juicebox. A huge thanks to US Med for sponsoring this episode of the Juicebox Podcast. Don't forget, usmed.com/juicebox. This is where we get our diabetes supplies from. You can as well. Use the link or call 888-721-1514. Use the link or call the number, get your free benefits check so that you can start getting your diabetes supplies the way we do from US Med. I can't thank you enough for listening. Please make sure you're subscribed or following in your audio app. I'll be back tomorrow with another episode of the Juicebox Podcast. When I created the Defining Diabetes series, I pictured a dictionary in my mind to help you understand key terms that shape type 1 diabetes management. Along with Jenny Smith, who of course is an experienced diabetes educator, we break down concepts like basal, time and range, insulin on board, and much more. This series must have 70 short episodes in it. We have to take the jargon out of the jargon so that you can focus on what really matters, living confidently and staying healthy. You can't do these things if you don't know what they mean. Go get your diabetes defined. Juiceboxpodcast.com, go up in the menu and click on series. The episode you just heard was professionally edited by Wrong Way Recording. WrongWayRecording.com.